we have different services available in these different categories that we can choose and get started with. And not just these categories here, we have multiple more categories available depending upon the requirement, depending upon what exactly we are trying to host on top of this cloud computing platform. That is something that we can go ahead and choose here. So now let's erase this up. Now, let's discuss, first of all, let's have a quick overview of all the core services available in this cloud computing platform. And then we'll be discussing and then we'll be seeing a live hands-on on top of how we can start hosting data, how we can start storing data on top of AWS using the S3 service here. So first of all, in computation, we have a service such as EC2 virtual service in the cloud here. So here we have ECS as a container management service. Now EC2 are like virtual servers. For example, let's say when we are trying to deploy any applications, we need a virtual server for it. Whenever we are trying to host any application, we do need a virtual server for it. And that exactly is offered by EC2 as part of virtual cloud service here, virtual elastic cloud compute, so that we can deploy the application and then we can deploy the server and then we can host our web applications on top of it. Then we have ECS. ECS are basically Elastic Container Service, which is basically used to manage multiple Docker containers when we deploy them. And then we have Lambda. So Lambda is a serverless computing platform. For example, let's suppose if we have a code, if we have written, suppose a simple code in Python, right? And now we want a Python, or suppose if we have a small code in Node.js, and now we need to test this code, correct? So there are two options here. Either we can go ahead and deploy a complete server, but we know that servers have to be paid on a per hourly basis, correct? And we know that this code is meant to be executed only for a fraction of seconds. For example, this code will be only executed for 5 seconds, 4.6 seconds, 5.9 seconds, and paying for 1 hour, even though when we have used only for a couple of seconds, is not feasible, correct? So in that case, what we can do, we can simply go ahead and use this, and then we can use a service called as Lambda. So in Lambda, what we can do, we can upload an entire platform on top of this Lambda service. We can upload entire platform, or we can say code on Lambda service, right? And then the entire code can be executed. That means here, if the code has been executed only for, let's suppose, 3.9 seconds, then here we have to only pay for 3.9 seconds, even without deploying any kind of servers, right? That exactly is what Lambda services, and again, how they are structured, where to we use it, how to configure this. We will be learning on this part step by step as we proceed with the entire course here, step by step. So let's erase this up. And Sahil, ACS is not a new service. Again, this has been a pretty old service, which is basically used to deploy multiple containers here. All right. That is exactly as how AWS is structured here for in terms of computation services. Then we have storage services. So in storage, we will be discussing on these different storage types. First of all, we have EBS, or we can say EBS storage here. So EBS, which we refer as block storage. So block storage are what referred as EBS, elastic block storage here. Now these are the storages that we attach to any ongoing servers. For example, we know that whenever we are launching any kind of PC, right? Whenever we are launching any kind of PC here, can a PC run without having any kind of internal storage? Everyone? Can a PC run without having any kind of internal storage attached to it? Can a PC run without having any storage attached to it? No, it cannot, correct? It cannot. Obviously, it cannot. Absolutely right. And that's why EBS is what? EBS is a storage that we attach to the servers here. For example, here we deploy, what we do, we deploy EC2 instances, correct? As a virtual server. And EBS are what? EBS are the storage that we attach to a single server here. These are the volumes that we attach to a single server. And we know that again, in a single PC, if we want, we can attach multiple internal hard disks. In a single PC, if we want, we can attach multiple internal hard disks, right? But the same hard disk, suppose if we have an internal hard disk that we attach to the PC, can we attach this internal hard disk to some other PC as well? Can we do that? Everyone? If we have an internal hard disk attached to one PC, can we attach this to other systems internally? Until unless it is shared here, we cannot attach it, right? And that's why what we have is server can have multiple volumes attached to it. For example, same as a PC. Same as a PC here. For example, here if we talk about our own PC, then in our PC here here we have C drive, which is basically running on SSD, and then we have D and F, which are basically running on another hard disk for a normal high performance hard disk, correct? So in the same PC, we have attached multiple hard disks, correct? Same way, in a single server, we can attach multiple volumes, but a single volume cannot be attached to multiple servers. That is what we have EBS. And if we want to make sure that we are able to share this entire file structure on multiple instances, then we can go ahead and use file storage here that as a part of EFS, as a part of Elastic File Storage available in AWS, right? And then we have object storage, so just like we have an external hard disk. We have an external hard disk that is a low performance hard disk, and if we want, we can directly access the hard disk here without having the need to internally connect this hard disk to the operating to the system here, correct? Like we have Google Drive, we have Dropbox, we have box services, right? So if you want to store any kind of file on these services, we can store them directly. If you want to share it across, we can share it as well, right? So if you want to share it as well, we can also go ahead and share it as well, depending upon the requirement, we can do that. And then we have data migration services, like we have Snowball. So Snowball is a physical device. For example, if we have 100 TB of data that we need to transfer from our local storage to the cloud storage as an S3 bucket, or if we have 100 TB of data stored in cloud services, and now we want to store it locally. For example, if we have any kind of on-premise storage here, right? And we want to transfer 100 TB of data from local machine, from our local storage to cloud services, right? To cloud services, to our S3, we can transfer that. Or if we have 100 TB of data stored in cloud, and now we want to import that locally, then we can also use Snowball service. So Snowball is a physical device which is offered by AWS, and on this device we can upload our data, and once data has been uploaded, now this will be returned back to us as a part of the entire services here, correct? And that is something that we are going to discuss. Then we have storage gateway servers, so that we don't have to rely over the internet in allowing giving us the entire access here. And then here we have third-party connectors. We have transfer extraction service. The third-party connectors is if we want to connect to multiple APIs, then we can use third-party connectors. If you want to go ahead with transfer acceleration, as in we want to increase the capacity of the transfer that we are going to make, then we can go for transfer acceleration. And then we have Kinesis. If we want to build an analytical dashboard, then we can go for Kinesis service as well. We can go ahead and build that. Okay, so next to Snowball is a storage gateway here. Like we have, like if we want, we can connect that to our application environment. We can go ahead and connect that. And then and again, these all services we are going to discuss in depth when we start our discussion on top of our AWS certification training here. And then we have networking. So in networking, we'll be discussing on VPC, through which we can directly set up a connection. Suppose if we want to have multiple, we can say a complete isolated network for us. Apart from the default configurations given to us, we want to create a separate network, then we can use VPC. If you are looking to host our website, then we can use the Route 53 service here. If you want to have a direct connection here, as in a direct lease connection, we can use Direct Connect. Or if we are going to host multiple domains, we can use Route 53 service here one by one as a part of load balancer as well. And then in security, we have IAM service, through which we can onboard multiple new users into a platform. Then we have AWS Shield, which we can use for protection, same as the WAF as a workflow service. And then we have AWS Shield here, which we can use for getting connected or for making sure the entire application is secured in the utmost manner. Like we have KMS-based servers as well. And then in databases, we are going to discuss on RDS. RDS refers to relational database services through which we can host our entire database here. We can define the entire structure. And then like we have, if you want to develop a system on top of MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, Oracle databases, then we can use RDS service for that. And then we have DynamoDB, which acts like a NoSQL database service here. And then we can use document and key value store here. Here we can use multiple handles, structures, and data. Here we can also define Elasticache, which is basically now DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service, which is basically useful for storing unstructured data formats. And then we have Elasticache. Using Elasticache, what we can do? We can maintain the in-memory cache management system. For example, we have some volatile or temporary data. For example, let's say when we are talking about e-commerce store, we have a section for cart and for wish list that gets saved for a temporary time period, right? So we don't need to store that in the database. There is a temporary file that we have to store here, correct? And that is something that we can define as a part of Elasticache. And then we have Redshift. So Redshift is a data warehousing service through which we can connect it to our multiple platforms so that if we have data coming in from different sources, then we can connect it to a single platform and then start working on top of it. We can do that. S3 bucket. All right.